Welcome to the Texas Department of Transportation's open house for the US 77 Odem Area Planning Study from I-37 to FM 1945 near Sinton. We appreciate your interest in this project and thank you for your participation. We will be discussing the purpose of this study, the next steps in project development, and how your input will be used in this process. At the end of the presentation, we will provide you with commenting options for any questions or input you may have. To be included in the official open house record, comments must be received on or before Friday, May 13th, 2022 at 11:59 p.m. Let's get started. This study is part of TxDOT's initial planning efforts to extend I-69E from Corpus Christi northward. This section of US 77, which is approximately 10 miles long, can be designated as I-69E upon meeting interstate standards and connecting to an existing interstate highway. The US 77 planning study is intended to establish the purpose and need for bringing US 77 up to interstate standards, describe the environmental features, develop, evaluate, and screen alternatives. This may include upgrading along the existing route, possible new location alternatives, or a combination. Recommend and determine alternatives that should be advanced for further detailed design and environmental study. Engage stakeholders and the public throughout the project development process. You may notice the study area depicted on this slide is fairly large. This is intended to provide sufficient coverage to accommodate the range of alternatives that may be developed to bring US 77 up to interstate standards. You may be asking, why do US 77 and other highways need to be upgraded to interstate standards? The I-69 system was established through a series of transportation legislation signed into law beginning in 1991. The I-69 system will ultimately extend through Texas up to Michigan, thereby providing a continuous interstate corridor connecting Mexico, the United States, and Canada. The I-69 system in Texas will result in a variety of benefits. It will enhance safety and traffic operations and facilitate the efficient movement of freight. It will address emergency evacuation needs and serve both rural and urban communities. I-69 will also accommodate growth and economic development and provide improved connectivity to multimodal facilities, ports, and border crossings. US 77 in the Odem area does not meet interstate standards. The US 77 roadway characteristics within Odem include 10 intersections that have stop signs from side streets that allow for turning onto US 77. There are also 3 signalized intersections, 2 at-grade rail crossings, a school zone that drops the speed to 25 miles per hour when school is in session, and a posted speed limit of 35 miles per hour through town. The rural sections of US 77 outside of Odem include 11 intersections with stop signs from side streets that turn onto US 77. There are also 14 median openings, some of which have left turn lanes, which allow traffic to cross US 77. In addition, this section of US 77 is a bottleneck, and there is a speed differential between the local and through traffic along the rural sections because of the driveways and median crossovers. Historic crash data indicates that safety-related issues and concerns exist along this section of US 77. A crash analysis was performed along US 77 from the US 77 I-37 interchange to FM 1945 near Sinton for the years 2016 to 2020. Over this 5-year period, there were 497 crashes, of which 5 resulted in a fatality and 15 resulted in a severe injury. The crash rate for this section of US 77 is higher than the statewide average. You see in the bottom table that driver behavior is a contributing factor to these crashes. Bringing US 77 up to interstate standards will include design and operational improvements that will maximize the opportunity for motorists to recover from driver error and react to unforeseen hazards. It will also reduce the mix of slower local traffic with higher speed through traffic. This is a crash density map for this area along US 77 that depicts where high crash frequency and severity has occurred over the 5 years between 2016 and 2020. You can see that the crash frequencies are widespread throughout the corridor, but are concentrated at the existing US 77 I-37 interchange and in Odem. In addition to safety, mobility, access, and connectivity are also needs for US 77 in this area. The annual average daily traffic for this section along US 77 ranged between 19,631 and 22,745 between 2016 and 2020. Of that, traffic approximately 13% were large trucks. The average speed in the area includes a bottleneck in Odem where the average speed drops to below 30 miles per hour to accommodate the in-town traffic. The purpose of upgrading this corridor is to improve through and local traffic mobility while enhancing access and connectivity to serve Odem and the surrounding rural community. As we've discussed through this presentation, the intent of this project is to upgrade the corridor to interstate standards. Let's go through what those standards include. There should be a minimum of 4 lanes, 2 lanes in each direction, a continuous median without at-grade crossings, grade-separated overpasses, access-controlled main lanes and interchanges, and a minimum design speed of 70 miles per hour. Frontage roads may be included for local access. The picture on the left of this slide shows the typical section of an interstate for an undeveloped area, and the one on the right, a developed area. There are numerous planning considerations that will be taken into account when developing alternatives to bring US 77 up to interstate standards. One of the most important considerations is stakeholder and public input. In other words, while you're viewing this presentation. Other considerations include locations of grade-separated interchanges, frontage roads, and access ramps that serve the local community, ongoing development in the area, accommodation of local and through traffic, enhancing safety, hurricane evacuation routes, grade-separated railroad crossings, minimization of right-of-way needs and displacements of businesses and/or homes, avoiding bisecting properties, avoiding and minimizing the impacts to the natural environment, and avoiding conflicts with the existing utilities in the area. As noted, public and stakeholder involvement is critical to this process. TxDOT has convened a group of local participants identified by local elected officials to act as a stakeholder working group for this study. These individuals will be working with TxDOT and the study team over the next year to help in the development and the evaluation of alternatives. TxDOT has also asked the stakeholders to assist in communication with the public and community. Your input, along with that of the stakeholders, will be used to determine the best alternatives for upgrading US 77. So, you may ask, when would something get built? The project development process consists of 4 phases, each involving stakeholder and public engagement. The timeline of each phase noted here are estimates, which are dependent on funding availability and the improvements to be advanced. We are currently in the planning study phase of project development, which is anticipated to take 18 months. Following the planning study, if the project proceeds, it would move into the environmental study phase. The preliminary design of the project occurs during this phase as well. The environmental study phase typically takes 1 to 3 years. Once an environmental decision is made and the build alternative is identified to move forward, the next project phase would involve the right-of-way acquisition, utility relocation, and final design. This phase typically takes an additional 1 to 3 years to complete. This is where offers and negotiations would occur with property owners to acquire needed right-of-way. Utility relocations would also occur. Once this phase is completed, the project can move into construction if construction funding is available. It is important to note that some sections of this 10-mile section of US 77 in the Odem area could be phased into construction separately, which might extend the timeline. Now that we've provided an overview of the project development process, let's focus on the current planning study. The timeline shown includes the project milestones. Please note that all dates are tentative and subject to change. Following this open house, the study team will begin to apply the design criteria and develop and evaluate initial alternatives and ultimately make recommendations on which alternatives to move forward in the project development process. There will be 2 more open house opportunities over the course of the next year. The US 77 Odem Area Planning Study is expected to be complete in late spring of 2023. Your comments are very important to TxDOT and will contribute greatly to the success of this study. Please note that comments can be made throughout the comment period and will be included in the open house summary documentation. The Corpus Christi District is asking the public to provide their comments in the following ways. 1. You may email your comments to robert.isauci@txdot.gov. 2. By filling out a comment card and mailing your comments to the Texas Department of Transportation, Corpus Christi District, attention to Kimberly Amy at 1701 South Padre Island Drive, Corpus Christi, Texas, 78416. And 3. Comments may also be accepted online by visiting the website www.txdot.gov. Type in Odem Open House in the keyword search at the top right of the TxDOT homepage, then click on the Submit Your Comment button on the project webpage. All of your statements, comments, and questions will be given careful consideration and responded to in a summary report that will be posted on the project website once completed. The public comment period for this open house closes on Friday, May 13th, 2022. Please ensure that your comment is received or postmarked by this date. The public may also email or call project staff during regular office hours to ask questions about the project at any time in the project development process. Thank you for joining TxDOT's open house for the US 77 Odem Area Planning Study. We sincerely appreciate your attendance and interest. Please take a moment to review project materials and remember to submit your comments on or before Friday, May 13, 2022. Thank you very much. This concludes the presentation.